Val, that didn't quite work.
Don't I? Okay. Good morning and welcome, everybody. It's so nice to see you all here today. How much we need each other's presence in these times. My name is Val Hall, if you can see, and I'm a member of the Lay-Led Service Committee. And this morning I'd like to read our mission to you. These are not only the words that we voted on, but those that we try to live by every day. Working toward a more just and inclusive society, our congregation supports spiritual growth and service with open doors, minds, and hearts. Open doors for welcoming our diverse island community and visitors. Open minds for exploring differing ideas and beliefs. Open hearts for deepening our connection with others and ourselves. This morning, I'm grateful to be deepening our connection with others by introducing our guest speaker. Tori Rosati is a second-year Master of Divinity student at the Boston University School of Theology. She has spent much of her career in the nonprofit sector working for organizations committed to environmental preservation and mental health. She's passionate about the vital role that faith communities play in our society to bring about personal and collective transformation. Tori lives north of Boston in Ipswich, which is famous for its clams, I have to say that, and with her husband and her 2 young daughters. Welcome, Tori. We're so happy you could be with us today. So now, as Peter and Susan light the chalice, please join them in saying the words printed in your order of service.
Okay, let's show our chalice, our little chalice. Peter, can you see it? No, you can't. Here. Okay. With this, everybody can say with me, if you'd like. With this flame, we renew our commitment
to justice
and compassion.
All right, and the next thing, we will all sing together. If we can unmute ourselves, we'll sing together the affirmation. And this is the part of the Zoom service where we all do our best to sing together with the Zoom time lag and with animals in the background. From the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land, by every tongue.
Now is the time in our service to greet one another. But first, before we do, we ask if you are new or returning after a long hiatus and would like to tell us or remind us of your name and where you're from. We would love to greet you in good old UU Meeting House style. Please raise your hand or unmute yourself if you'd like to do that.
Tori has her hand.
All right, Tori.
I'm new.
Okay. Well, let's now take a moment to greet one another in fellowship. So if you're muted, please unmute yourself for this.
Good morning, everyone.
We're unmuted.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, Loretta and Bob. Hello. Hi, Michael and Julie. Hi, Mary. And hello, Elliot.
Hi, Al.
Craig and Linda. How's LA?
Hey, Linda.
Is anybody else having trouble with the sound this morning?
Hi, Craig and Linda.
Susan, Kirk, hi.
Is anybody else having trouble with the sound this morning? We keep getting a frozen screen and we get booted off Zoom. Is anybody else having this difficulty?
Not yet.
It's probably your computer. You might want to log out and log back in.
Yeah, we did it and we booted out twice. So we're trying to
Yeah.
freeze this up and we can. Okay. Thank you.
Judy, after service, you can try updating Zoom, and you might be frozen, and you might be able to log in through the web browser instead of through the actual
My
Zoom.
computer. Yeah. So, and there's Mary Geisman. Hi, Mary. It's good to see you again.
I am off island again.
And,
so.
Well, I don't have a bell to ring, so I'll just turn it over to Nigel.
All right, it's time for our first hymn. This is Old Standby, familiar tune. We're going to sing number 131, Love Will Guide Us. If you would like to sing along, you can find the lyrics or the music printed in your order of service. If you don't know the words and you can't find the music, feel free to make some words up. If you don't know the tune, feel free to make up a tune. Just please remember that during this time, we are all singing together, even though we can't hear each other or feel each other. If you want to make up some words and can look at the screen, there's a bit of fellowship to be had just by looking at each other's singing faces. So, Love Will Guide Us, number 131.
Everybody.
Tori will be reading the poem.
This poem is called Reunion by Barbara Peskin. One of the old ones stood up into the morning light and spoke to those who had come back to the river. Now we have come again to this place. My life apart from you is not as strong. Yes, I have danced and I have told the stories at my own fire, and I have sung well to all 8 directions. But when I am with you, my friends, I know better who it is in me that sings. Spirit of life, be with us in this moment, our moment of reunion, as we gather together in worship, story, and song. Like the marsh grass that clings to the shoreline, so we at some point or another cling to each other, especially in these challenging times. We may be swept in or out, but we remain anchored in our companionship, gathered in our spirit, and steadfast in our love. Alone, we are individual blades of grass, holding fast to clay. But together, may we transform into a great marsh that absorbs the tide for everyone. Together, may we shape the water's edge and the greater meaning of our lives. Amen.
Now is the time in our service for joys and concerns. We call this part of our theology the seventh principle, the interconnected web of all existence of which we are a part. Knowing that our joys and sorrows connect us all, we leave this time in our beloved community to share with each other. If you have a joy or a sorrow to share, please raise your hand or unmute yourself. This is your time.
A simple, immediate reaction to that beautiful poem, Reunion. How that speaks to our weekly gathering for me. Thank you.
Anyone else? Is there anyone else who has Susan?
This is kind of a joy and kind of an announcement, but since we don't have announcements, Hank, who many of you know, our wonderful bulldog, who is very much a joy, also sometimes a challenge, is in the running for the book festival, the Nantucket Book Festival calendar. And he is, if you would like to vote for him, you can go on to their Facebook page or their website, and he is reading How to Be an Anti-Racist, is his book. So he would appreciate your votes. He's in 14th place, so he just needs to get to 12th place to have a month. So
that's great.
Everybody, if you can vote for him, that would be.
What is the site, Susan? What's the name of the site?
Nantucket Book Festival. Just that you could Google that, Nantucket Book Festival, and it will go there. And there's some really sweet dogs, and it looks like maybe Loretta and Bob are holding their hand up. It seemed like they were, speaking of dogs. So,
okay. Yeah, Bob or Loretta?
This is our new joy right here. His name is Buster. He's 2 years old. Came from Nisha, and we're very happy to have him.
Yay.
Congratulations.
That's great.
Thank you. Isn't he cute?
Joanne, you need to unmute yourself.
We have to mute ourselves now.
Oh, you're still muted.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. What's that, Joanne?
Oh, well, they've disappeared. Well, I just wanted to say that you can go to GoGo photo contest Nantucket directly and it'll get the site for Hank.
Great. Is there anyone else that would like to express a joy or a concern? Then let's all have a moment of silence. Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Lucille again, sorry.
So I started with a joy, and I'll end with a concern that we all keep the faith for democracy staying alive in these times. Amen.
Amen. Judy? Oh, no, no, okay. Well, let's now have a moment of silence. For all the joys that were expressed, we ask that they grow more joyful because they have been shared in this circle of friends. And for sorrow shared and unshared, we ask that they grow easier to carry because they have been brought here to this loving community. Nigel?
Are we going to do the meditation? All right, Nigel.
Oh, I had done that after the poem. I just moved into it, but maybe.
Oh, okay, great. No, that's sorry.
Yep.
Nigel.
All right, we'll have our middle hymn now. This is number 1009, Meditation on Breathing. And it's familiar by now. This has been our hymn for the month, middle hymn for the month of August. So I think we have one more week after this of listening to this one.
Wow, that was so beautiful. So, in that space. Well, thank you all for having me here today. I was really looking forward to being able to join you in person when I had first reached out to Reverend Linda earlier this year about guest preaching. I've never had the pleasure of visiting Nantucket. My church is on the North Shore, north of Boston and Ipswich, so we're not situated on an island like yours, but we do abut the Atlantic. So as I sit here from my home in Ipswich next to the ocean, I take joy in knowing that maybe at least some of our air smells the same. Since we are all just meeting today and getting to know each other, I thought I would start this reflection with a personal story because it says a little bit about me, but also something about our faith and how it supports us during challenging times and has the power to transform. After the birth of my second daughter, I found myself in a really low place, physically, mentally, and spiritually. At the urging of my husband, I decided to turn back to church for the first time in over 15 years, and we found ourselves one Sunday morning at the First Universalist Church of Essex, listening to a sermon about hope. I was raised Catholic and left the church when I was confirmed at 18, and my husband grew up in a secular household, so a UU church felt like the right fit for our family. Shortly after we started attending, I reached out to the then minister for some pastoral counseling. I was struggling with postpartum depression, the demands of a growing family, and feeling isolated and disconnected. I met him on a cold December evening, salt air whipping, carrying my new baby in her bucket car seat up the snowy front steps to sit in the toddler room with a rickety old space heater and decades-old faded quilts on the walls. The minister offered me a cup of tea, rich conversation, and his ear. The next day, I sent him an email thanking him for his time, his care, so grateful for warm things. He responded back a few hours later with a couple of book recommendations, therapists that had a spiritual focus for me to reach out to, and these final words: "Don't worry, we will get through this. Don't worry, we will get through this." This person I hardly knew, this church, this faith that barely stirred in me, and I was pulled into some great and mysterious we, a space that appeared held and honored for companionship, that cracked my hardened heart, letting a thin strand of light in. A light that would brighten over the next 9 years as my spirit unfurled into the great we that was and is UU Essex. And I have been orienting toward it ever since, feel called to recreate it, and sure that it offers us some hope as individuals, congregations, and a larger faith. As we all know, at present, our world is faced with two public health crises. The concurrent pandemics of COVID and racism have shined a spotlight on the vast disparities that exist in our society. As we've withdrawn from lives that we have always known, this new world around us has revealed chasms of separation, not just physical, but social as well, a world separated by virus, inequity, and what our nation is reckoning with in this moment, the history of systemic racism that stretches back to our founding. And yet, with all its separation, its struggle, and its pain, we have also been faced with how interconnected we actually are, and that despite all of this, the glaring way that we still need each other. For most of human existence, we have lived in community. Our American culture, with its bend toward individualism, has recently taught us that self-sufficiency is supreme, that our way is the best way, and there is status and success without help. Because we live in it, like a fish that doesn't know it's in water, we move through our days thinking that this is normal, right, and virtuous even. Yet in our current moment, these adages have strained and something tugs at us. As we have gotten used to these new rhythms of pandemic life, we feel its loss. And we don't always know what it is. Maybe only this vague sense of dissatisfaction, loneliness, a longing that rumbles beneath the surface. But what is it? As a faith, how do we find it, nurture and cultivate it amidst our searching, through our isolation, up our snowy front steps, and despite our individualist world that draws us into ourselves and away from each other? So I ask us this morning, what does it mean to be a we? Michael Battle, in his book, Reconciliation, the Ubuntu Theology of Desmond Tutu, explores Anglican Bishop Desmond Tutu's understanding of community in the context of African Ubuntu. Some of you may be familiar with this. Tutu's sense of Ubuntu derives from a Xhosa proverbial expression that translates, each individual's humanity is ideally expressed with others, or a person depends on other people to be a person. Tutu says, quote, a person is not basically an independent solitary entity. A person is human precisely in being enveloped in the community of other human beings, in being caught in the bundle of life. Michael Battle goes on to explore what Tutu means when he talks about community. Here, Battle draws a distinction between African and Western ways of viewing community. Where African forms of community are true collectives, our Western understandings are more like constituted groups or associations of individuals. Similarly, Western notions of the individual are viewed in the context of personhood, of a lone, self-determining entity, where African notions of the individual depict a person's meaning as only in the context of their environment. When we live and orient toward relationship, we recognize the particularities that we bring as individuals in the context and environment of accompanying each other. We offer those unique parts of ourselves as gifts to the other so that we both can be whole. This, I think, is true community. Community that transcends an association of individuals is like our seventh principle, an interconnected web of existence that depends deeply on each individual and creates that net to catch us in the bundle of life. I have found through my own faith life and journey that we are not always talking about the same thing when we talk about living in community, being in relationship, or what some call companioning. Does it mean that we all get along? Does it mean that we move in the same direction, share the same vision, march to the same drum? I don't think so. The unique thing about Unitarian Universalism is our diversity of belief. We are all coming to this space from different traditions, context, cultures, and backgrounds. This provides us a chance to practice how to live across difference, but alongside each other. This living alongside, it shapes our worship services and our rituals and our fellowship. Our relationships tell the stories of who we are to the world around us and to each other. These relationships are more than what we are now calling conversations in Zoom coffee hour break or seeing our friends on Sunday. Along with our principles, they are the living, breathing, painful, messy, joyful foundation of why we are here. But this living in community isn't always easy. Lawyer, mediator, and peacemaker Tom Porter, in his book, The Spirit and Art of Conflict Transformation, tells the story of Dorotheus of Gaza, a 6th century monk and abbot. One day, the monks of Dorotheus's monastery came to him saying that they had had enough of each other. "We've had it," they said. "We cannot worship God in the company of our fellow monks anymore," they cried. Their problem? Each other's, quote, ordinary and irritating presence. And I'm going to stop here and just share my screen with you for a minute because I'd like to accompany the rest of the story with an image. And this is the Methodist Just Peace Center for Mediation and Conflict Transformations, Just Peace Wheel. Porter writes, Dorotheus responded by asking them to visualize the world as a great circle whose center is God, and upon whose circumference lie human lives. Imagine now, he asked them, that there are straight lines connecting from the outside of the circle all human lives to God at the center. Can't you see that there is no way to move toward God without drawing closer to other people? And no way to approach other people without coming nearer to God? Now, I know in our UU context, when we talk about the divine, we aren't necessarily talking about a traditional sense of God. Maybe our divinity is love or ultimate reality, the ground of being or the universe. Yet in whatever way we understand that something greater, when we move toward each other, we can't escape it, and vice versa. And when we arrive in the center, all are transformed. So how do we move toward that center? How do we sit with the struggle and pain that we encounter along the way? To bring in another voice, Episcopal priest and climate activist Margaret Bullitt Jonas, in her work to build hope and resilience in the face of climate change, has this meditative framework, and you can find it on her Creation Care blog, on how to hold the overwhelming pain of the climate crisis. But I want to offer it here adapted slightly, because I think that it has something also to say about how we build hope and resilience in the face of many of our struggles, how we move toward that center, how we might understand this practice of relationship in the context of our faith lives, elevate it to something sacred and holy, whether it is our relationship to the earth or each other. The meditation begins with her asking us to imagine an awakened heart, a heart that is deeply attuned to love, love that wells up from the world around us, swells with the experiences of gratitude, wonder, amazement, and awe. Next, we are asked to sit with a broken heart, a stage of our journey that we don't always want to move into, but one that is inescapable in being part of an interconnected world. A stage where we sit with not just our own suffering, but the suffering of others and the world around us. A stage that we must pass through on our way toward reaching the collective light of peace and joy. And lastly, we experience a radiant heart. Not so much experience, but as Bullitt Jonas explains, we express. A space where we set our love free. This is the space where we make our commitments, send ourselves and our light out into the world. Margaret Bullitt Jonas's exercise of the awakened, broken, and radiant heart has much to say, I think, about how to be in relationship with and companion one another, how we approach the center. We cultivate and awaken our love inside ourselves through meditation, prayer, letting ourselves experience the gifts of friendship, companionship, and community that abound around us. But this opening can be uncomfortable. Approaching Dorotheus's center isn't all happiness, connection, and joy. Relationships can be painful, vulnerable, and traumatic. Sometimes we invite in more than we'd bargained for. Or like Dorotheus's monks found, sometimes we invite in the ordinary and irritating. But when we arrive, finally, feel our way through the dark night, we radiate. We take the risk of showing up for each other, of sharing back the gifts that were received by allowing our pulsing hearts to send out like ever-expanding waves, tendrils of love to those around us. And this is the thing, these relationships, like so much in life, it's a circle. When we radiate out, we are starting the process for someone else. They receive what we give and awaken in turn. Like the cyclical rhythm of breathing, we draw in the presence of others that both awakens and breaks our hearts. We breathe out and radiate the love that quickens inside, only to have the cycle repeated again. In and out, in and out. And each breath is unique and necessary, like air. For as Bishop Tutu says, God has created us to be different in order that we can realize our need for one another. So what does this mean for our faith? Our congregations allow us to practice this being in relationship, being a we. We practice conflict and resolution. We practice listening and speaking and holding the crises we face and share. We do the hard work of living in beloved community together, even in these challenging and unprecedented times. But as we found in Jonas's meditation, that practice can't end there. We must take these practices beyond our walls, our Zoom screens, and radiate ourselves in service to our wider community in whatever ways we can in these limiting times. Our congregations can offer us refuge in a place for contemplation and centering, a place for our hearts to awaken. Yet the love that awakens within these walls, behind these screens, is also preparation, preparing us to sit in and move through the brokenness and pain we find when we decenter ourselves and orient toward others. This then calls us to radiate, to build relationship with a capital R, companioning that keeps us bound to our neighbors because something is now at stake, and our lives are interconnected in ways that would not permit us to walk away, even if we wanted to. We are here in our physical and virtual spaces to do that work, move toward that center that embodies the collective we of mutual awakening and transformation. It orients us when we are lost, heals our divisions, sits with us behind our Zoom screens, and offers us a warm cup of tea on a cold December evening. As we move toward each other, each in our own particular and distinct ways, we can't help but move closer to the thing that binds us. Let the warmth of community and companionship, in whatever form it takes in these days, ease our separation, fill in the cracks where coldness rests, and push love out. Let our faith offer us a chance to practice and live out our desire for relationship in a way that is generative and transformative, that draws out and depends upon our unique gifts in service to the world around us. Let us complete the cycles of relationship over and over again and breathe into each other. Practice living into the promise of love, because relationships are holy, because something is at stake, and because together we will get through this. May it be so.
Oh, that was wonderful. Wow. Thank you so much for your personal and meaningful and very inspiring words. And now it's time for the offering. And as always, we ask you to be generous. To keep this interconnected web alive takes all of us giving our time, our energy, our thoughts, and our spirit. And of course, it takes resources. This is your time to contribute to keep all that the UU Meeting House is and what it needs to continue to thrive. Thank you. Elizabeth will now show you how to contribute.
Yes. So I put in the chat the information for the website as well as the PO box if you would prefer to do a check. And for when you go to the website, UnitarianChurchNantucket.org, at the top right, we've got the contribute button, which will take you to the Tithe account. Right below it, the text give will also take you to the Tithe. If you scroll down to the bottom of the website, you'll find the PayPal link as well. Still there, if you do PayPal, I would just remind you that you need to type in the box as to where you'd like the contribution to go. Tithely, you've got the different section of the drop down to be able to select whether you're doing Sunday offering or a gift or pledge. And you also have the option to choose if you would like it to be a recurring gift so that it will happen. You can do weekly or monthly or whichever. And scroll all the way down and then finish filling information. So now I will give it to Nigel once I stop sharing the screen.
For the musical offering today, I have something a little bit different. This is a very short piece by a man named Stan Applebaum. Just a brief note about the piece. This fragile, wispy, atonal piece becomes a glassy, shimmering sound experience when performed with a careful touch and sustain pedal. It's lovely with headphones. A brief note about Stan Applebaum is he is notable for doing the instrumental arrangements for songs such as Stand By Me and Spanish Harlem. And it was astounding to me that this sound and that sound can come from the same person. You'll see what I mean in a moment. And our final hymn for the day is number 299, Make Channels for the Streams of Love, whose lyrics tie in beautifully with what Tori was saying about making sure that we send our tendrils of love outwards. I'll briefly read a couple of the lyrics because I know many of you, it's difficult to have those music and the Zoom meeting up at the same time. Make channels for the streams of love where they may broadly run, and love has overflowing streams to fill them, every one. But if at any time we cease such channels to provide, the very founts of love for us will soon be parched and dried. For we must share if we would keep this gift all else above. We cease to give, we cease to have. Such is the law of love. I was also told by the choir that this tune is unfamiliar to this congregation, so I hope you guys all enjoy listening to a new tune. This is very familiar to me in my Episcopal upbringing.
Tori?
As we go forth, may we hear the voices of each other in our song. May we be with each other as presence, as heart, as breath, as light. In our absence, our distance, and our separation, may we find ways to lift our spirits and dance, tell our stories, and find our way back to the river, back to the place at the center that holds all, and back to each other. Amen.
Now, Peter and Susan will extinguish the chalice. Please unmute yourselves and join them for the words in your order of service.
Okay. Carry the flame
of peace and love until we meet again.
And the postlude today, I have something a little bit fun for you guys in my preparations for school in a couple of weeks. I ran across this tune. This is the song in the music book where I dump out the bucket of sticks and the kids play along too. The title of this piece is Play Along Too. It's just way too much fun, and I made myself a little pre-recorded backing track so that I can play along too. I hope you guys enjoy.
Thank you so much, Nigel. That was just so much fun. And thank you for everything you do, bringing such wonderful music every Sunday to